And I'm live. That is actually pretty cool. Today is 24th of February 2026, Tuesday. And with that, let's just begin. Yep, the screen is visible. That is cool. Okay, and I maybe not in the stream, but I do today want to finish up the backend so that we can begin working on the front end, which would be cool. Like, actually, let's finish the backend. Cool. So, uh, yep, the part that is remaining is game ending logic. The game has to end. Like, yes, of course, the game has to end. And there are a couple of ways that the game can end. I think there was one more other than this. Resignation draw by the opponent. Shit. Apart from this, there is actually resignation draw or the opponent left. Shit. Okay. Fifth would be opponent resign or drop. And then sixth would be shit, this just keeps getting bigger somehow. That's what. Okay. Fifth and sixth. Sixth is opponent online connection loss. That is crazy. End of game, checkmate, stalemate, time up, or a repetition. Yep, that is just cool. Checkmate, stalemate, time up, repetition. Okay, we have a function which checks checkmate, one for stalemate, one even for repetition now using an algorithm, Zobrist. It is called Zobrist algorithm. And yes, when things are better, I would like to rewrite this code in a better way because look at this. This file is like 800 lines long, and yes, it would be pretty cool to split this up into main functions and helper functions. And stalemate, yes, stalemate. We have to write some way to check for a stalemate, for which I would like some help. And for opponent resign and draw, yes, we can write a protocol. And yes, we also have to update the protocol. Update uh, socket protocol. Yeah, we have to update the socket protocol. And let's begin with, am I audible? It seems like so. I am audible. Cool. And one more thing. Maybe not one, maybe two more things. But not one. Yes, this is public. Was the mistake that I made the last time. I made the stream private and I was streaming. But yeah. Well, yeah, but yesterday I didn't stream. That is another thing. Okay. Here. And what would be the question? We are now checking stalemate and checkmate repetition done for time loss. Checkmate, yeah, we don't even have to look for this. Checkmate, we have a better solution now. Generate all the possible moves, and if there are no moves for the opponent, then bro got checkmated. Time up, time up. Okay. And yes, like the talk feature in chat gpt is pretty insane. Hello, I am building a chess website and there is a front end and a back end for the website. And I want to write a system for checking the time up feature. What if when the opponent goes out of time? So what I'm using for backend is JavaScript. So there is a single thread for that. And what I want to do is when the move comes in, it is validated and all the things are validated first, checked for checkmate, stalemate, and everything. And then I look at the time when the move was made. And I'm just worried about there might be a big difference between when the move is made on the front end and when it is received on the back end and validated. So yeah, is that and then sent to the other player. So Is there a law big time lap, or tell me something about it?
Ah, good catch. Yeah, there's definitely a potential pitfall here. The problem is that the clock on the front end and the back end don't always march in sync. Network latency, user device clocks, and even slight delays in processing on the server can throw off the timing. What you need is a
Mhm.
trusted source, like a synchronized timestamp, perhaps from the server, so you can rely on that. A practical approach: when the move hits the back end, you log the exact server time, then compare that against the move time the front end sent. If there's a big gap, you can handle it, either by rejecting the move, logging it, or adjusting the timing. So, in short, no magic fix, just a deliberate handshake between client and server to keep things honest.
But even on the front end, when the move is made, it is then validated and only then sent. So, should there be a timestamp sent from the front end at the time of the move validation, at the time when the move is validated after the validation? And then at the back end, when the server has validated the move and wants to store it with the timestamp, then should, yeah, I'm just thinking there might be a big time lap or something.
Exactly, you've got the right instinct. Even if you validate the move on the front end, that clock might be off. So the best practice is to capture a timestamp right before you send the move to the back end. That's the front end validation time. Then on the back end, you note the server time when the move is fully processed. By comparing both, you get a sense of the network lag. If you spot a big discrepancy, you can flag it, either by giving the player a warning or deciding on some cutoff. It's not perfect, but it's the best you can do without a synchronized clock source. Think of it like a referee who checks the time from both watches before making the call.
But I think just checking the time on the back end would be fine, because that can be considered as the processing time or network latency.
Yeah, that's a totally reasonable approach. Keep it simple. If you treat the back end timestamp as the official clock, you're effectively measuring how long the move took to get there. It's pragmatic. The back end's your referee, and it's the single source of truth. The slight lag is just part of the game. Just make sure you log and monitor any unexpected outliers. So if a pattern emerges, you can dig deeper. But for a chess clock, that's probably all the precision you need.
Yeah, that is good enough. So we can, when the move comes in, for time up, when the move comes in, we can just log on the time of the move. And then when the move is validated and we are checking if the game has ended at that time, we can look at that time and register the move at that time. But the problem is shared. Yes, now there is a problem. But with this, the problem is, if we do go with the move with time being logged by the front end and being sent to the back end, the problem would be that there is going to be some time delay between the move when the move is made by someone on the front end and being received by the other user. So what should be the time that is seen by the other user?
Ah, right. So that's where it gets a bit trickier. If you rely on the front end's timestamp, the other user will see that move as if it happened locally, which could introduce that weird lag perception. What you can do is have the back end send the time back to both users after it's validated. In other words, the back end acts as a neutral clock, and you broadcast that official time to everyone. That way, both players see the exact same official time the back end determined. It's a bit of a handshake, but ensures fairness. No one gets a head start or a false sense of time advantage.
So you are saying, instead of having a single clock which runs on both the backends, whenever a move is made by the player, the time should update on both the sides.
Exactly. Think as the back end like the timekeeper at a chess tournament. When a move is made, the back end locks in the official time, then pushes that exact time to both users. That way, everyone is on the same page. No one has a sneaky time advantage. It's a bit like a referee blowing a whistle. Everyone hears the same signal, and the game stays fair.
Okay, so is this what chess.com and other chess websites do, or do they have a faster server or means for validating the moves to make sure that there is no lag between the front end and the back end time?
Chess.com, like many online chess platforms, uses the server as the official timekeeper. When a move is made, the server timestamps it, processes it, and then broadcasts that official time to both players. They also have lag compensation rules. For example, they forgive a minimum of 500 milliseconds per move in rapid games, so that network delays don't unfairly penalize players. In short, the server keeps the clock fair, even if network lag sneaks in.
Okay, so they we can say that they have a default increment of 500 milliseconds.
Exactly. That 500 millisecond grace period is kind of their safety net. It cushions minor delays so the game doesn't feel like it hinges on a tiny network hiccup. So if you adopt something similar, you're in good company. Just make sure your backend logs that official time and apply the same grace period. Keeps the pressure off and everyone's on equal ground.
That does make sense. That does make sense. Okay, so we will have the final say will come from the server, and the server will tell the backend how much time is remaining for both the players. That would be cool. So yes, now we have to update what is the interface that the protocol which is being used. Game.enum. Yep, I think it is here. Yep. And nope. Yes. Here, move socket response. So this is the response which is sent by the server. We have to update this, and we also have to update not the game object, but we also have to update what is sent by the front end to the backend. Right now, it is just a legit string and nothing else. So, yep, we have to update this. Okay, right now we have error message, which is fine. Yes, error message and over telling if the game is over or not, and why over, why the game is over, checkmate, so that the front end can say why the game ended. It could be checkmate, stalemate, threefold repetition, insufficient material, time over, other player left, or draw, or resignation, other resigned, or other draw. Other abandoned is like other left. Abandoned is probably a better word. And not over would be the default over response. And wait, other abandoned and other wants to draw. Yes, that is also something that must be there. If one player wants to draw and they send a draw request to the other player, there should be something. Yes, let's say this is the server, and then this is the front end 1, front end 2, F2, F1, and this is the server. This player wants to, let's say, have a draw. Then this tells the server that I want a draw. The server, and this would be different from move validation. Shit, this request should be processed differently than the normal checking process for a move. Okay, makes sense. And the server will tell this front end that the other player wants to make a draw. And cool. So there are going to be three types of request which we can categorize as mm, two broad categories. One would be move related, uh, like what are the moves, and other would be game state. I think we can call it game state related. In the move related one, like it is in the name, it will correspond to the moves. And for the game state related one, there would be, first of all, or second of all, no, first of all, there would be draw, resign, the other player draw, the other player resigned, or other player ran out of time, the other player ran out of time, or yes, the other player left. And yep, and even in draw there would be draw asking for a draw, would you like to have a draw, and then telling that the other player has drawn because you were the one who sent a draw a request. Hmm, there is quite a bit. There is, I think this we can add later on, the draw resign. Right now I just want to do this properly. We can add asking for draw later on. For now, let's just get this done, right, so that we can begin working on the front end. Okay, move related, game over reason, checkmate, all of these could be the reason. Yes, so let's update this. Socket response, this is the response which is sent through the socket from the backend to the front end. Error, was there an error message? Game over, why over, that is good enough. If over, then winner, who is the winner? If this thing is true, then the receiver won the game, and if false, then the other player won the game. And why did they win the game? Because why reason would be there. Move color, who is the one that made the move? That should not be a concern. That why are we sending this to the front end? The front end does not need to know this. Okay. Hmm. H, draw. No, it would be in over. Yes, that is much better. And what else needs to be known? Time. White time left and black time left. This would be number. Black time left would also be a number. That seems good. Black time left and white time left. Interface of what is sent by the server socket to the front end. And move index, that is cool. Game over reason, reasons why a game could end. Cool, that looks actually pretty cool. I think we can begin forward with this interface. This looks good enough. Then the gets and the mm, unwinner gets false. The winner will get this as true, and the unwinner will get this as false. Cool. Cool. And there are going to be errors. And there was a key map that I made for checking for errors. Copilot is not there anymore. Can delete that. Go new errors. Last error. No. I think shit, I completely forgot. Maybe it is in LSPs. Yes, shit, yes. LSP config and no, it is not here. Okay, backend APIs, game start, has one is not being used, but why? Yes, shit, because there has to be, yes, there has to be a lot of logic update here. Okay, when a message comes, okay, first of all, get user data and check if the user is playing, and if not playing, then error. Validate the move format, then get opponent data, get white user ID, decide which user is white and which is black, and then get the game object, console.log, got game object, then move, then find the color of the current user, validate the move. Move color is not here, false is not here, and there is an error here. Something is missing. Type move winner error, y over, game over, not over, false is missing properties, move socket response, white time left and black time left. Shit, yes. White time left and black time left. These have to be here, which is white time left, game object dot white time left, and black time left would be game object dot black time left, which will be updated after updating the game object. Here we are updating the game object. Get response post move. This thing generates a proper response, which is pretty cool for the current player and the other player. Okay, and here are quite a bit of problems. Cannot find why, because yes, shit, I didn't uh, write the thing properly, completely. We do all the imports and no export game. Okay, game object game. What? Game does not make sense. This should be import game object, and instead of this we have game object here. Move socket response cannot find name move socket response. Yep, remove this, remove draw, and black time left and white time left. Okay, there are other things which are not here. Move y over is missing. Okay, over and y over, and this will depend. Not game over reasons, not over. Let's say this is the current response which we will update. Game object is a type. Okay, cool, agreed. Cool. Inform other player. Yes, we will inform the other player. Make the opponent a response. Same. And in this part, we are getting the response. But we are calling this function is game ended function. And this function is giving us this thing. Has player one. Hello. Seems like you will really finish it today. At least, hopefully, the backend. I will. Let's see how it goes for the backend. And one cool thing which I have started doing now is talking to ChatGPT instead of writing. And this is like pretty cool. It is actually like talking to someone else. So, yep, pretty cool. And this is like actually very big. I don't know if this is normal, but this is getting very, very big. The whole project is. Okay, what is this? Yep, return current player response and opponent response. Okay, so this is the main handler function. This takes in the move here, get the move and check if the user is even playing or not playing, and then validate the move format, which seems good enough. Then prints the move, uh, but not okay. Then opponent data, then decide which user is white and get the game object, find the color of the current user, and then validate the move. So we have this function for validating the move, which is cool. Yes, we need to validate the move. Then we need to check if the game, no, if the move is validated, we need to find a response, update the game object, find a response after move validation. uh, Update game object, update game object, create response, update game object, create response, check for end. If the game has ended, then we will close both the connections, tell them respectively what happened, and yep, tell them what happened, and also save the game on the backend database. Do a clock command to see how big is it, what is big, or Toki, whichever you like. Wait. Oh, okay, shade for the project. Okay, let's see. Clock, what is clock? This thing? This is looking for it. Clock command. Key, it is Linux command. Cool. Or maybe TLDR will work with this. What is TLDR? TLDR clock and finding, filling up the cache, I think. Count all the lines of code. Shit, is that clock? CLOC. Count line of code. Shit, is that the actual full form? Count compute difference line of source code. Clock command full form cannot generate. Count lines of code. Okay, shit. Makes sense. Makes sense. Makes sense. Count lines of code. Two key is the same. Okay, two key does the same thing. Uh, Clock. This file 6,000 file. Wait, shit. This will also include the directories and everything, right? The libraries where how is there PHP and SQL makes sense, but PHP what the hell? Clock source in source there is this stuff. 31 files, TypeScript, SQL, JSON, Markdown is also there, and 1,000. Wait, that is not actually pretty lot, not a lot, but certainly bigger than anything I have ever done. So yes, that is cool. Blank. What does blank mean? 31 files for TypeScript. Comment, comment. Okay, comments. 207 comments make sense, and 1,600 lines of code. 83, 83 for SQL itself. That is crazy. JSON and 7 line for Markdown. Cool. Clock is cool. Count lines of code. It is written in but better. Toki by default removes certain folders. Okay, you can pass this or something. Use Toki. Wrote one of my own named Glock. Okay, Glock. Uh, KIE or KEI? KEI, it seems. Shit. Toki manifest JSON. Toki. Cool. And it is giving a higher number of lines. Toki on source folder. Higher number of shit. Okay, somehow it is. This says I have written more. 2,000 is quite a bit more than 1,600. 30, yeah, number of files is same, lines is different, code. Okay, this many code and this many comment makes sense. So this thing combined comments and 1,731, and the clock says 1,756, almost same. Cool. Blanks 200. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's like, yep, start working here. Update the game object. Yo, Kakashi Hatake, how is it going? Tuki was written in Rust. Shit, Rust is cool. Like, yes, I want to learn Rust as I have learned C++. It would be cool. And also Zig when at some point, Zig also. It would be cool. Okay, so yep, these are the things. After move is validated, update game object, which is done. We do update game object, create response, something we have to work on. Update game object, done, cool. Create response, remaining, check for end. Check for end, all the helper functions are there. Checking for end, like uh, there could be checkmate, stalemate, time up. Time up is what we have to look for now. Repetition, repetition is also done, which is like very cool. How we are checking for repetition, and yes, how we are checking for repetition is actually pretty cool. It is a separate algorithm, Zobrist, not not this hashing. And Kakashi, you might like it. I am also cool. Like, yep, better than yesterday. I usually run these commands in any new project to see the project overview. Okay, if I were to run this command on Linux, what would happen? Here, this is pretty cool. For each state of game, this algorithm creates a hash and stores it. And this has a map where the key is the hash and the value is how many times that position has repeated. So whenever we create a new position, we update the hash, we find the new hash, and we update its value in the map by one, and we see whether that count is three. Whenever it is three, then the game has repeated three times. That board position has repeated three times. And for repetition, yes, Kakashi, you might be able to help here. It would show the lines, language code Linux. No, like it would be very big. It would be actually pretty big because it is like 2 3 GBs long. And did you check the repetition rules? Yep. For wait, yes, repetition has to involve first of all the board positions where all the pieces are currently, whose chance it is. Two things. Let me write it down. So for repetition, the things that are considered is pieces and squares. Like of course, this is the obvious thing. And second is whose chance it is, the color. Then third is castling rights. And then the fourth would be en passant. And I have considered here pieces squares, yes, whose chance it is, and castling rights. I have not considered en passant because considering that is going to be not tough, but not very good. It is going to increase the time, how much time it is taking to check for en passant, to also include en passant in hash, because every hash, because in chess there are 16 pawns and 16 of them have, we will have to go through all the 16 pawns to create the new hash for our new board. So that would be like 16 extra steps every time that we are creating a new hash. And I just thought maybe we should not do that. And also another reason like why we can get away with this is there are I think very rare chances when threefold repetition is denied because the en passant rules were different, right? All the game stores, yep, it is millions of lines that you have to store all the game states. No, I'm just storing the hashes and then comparing how many times this hash has appeared. And the one thing that I think is okay is I'm not going to use en passant for hash calculation because there I don't think are many games, many situations in which threefold repetition is denied because of difference in en passant rules. Okay, things considered for Zobrist hash. This is cool. But before I knew about Zobrist hash, my default instinct was to initialize start board, initial board, empty board, and then go through all the moves and get all the intermediate boards, compare them with the current board, and keep count how many times this current board has appeared, which would actually be very stupid. So Zobrist hash is much better. We just find a hash and we update. We update the count, how many times this hash has appeared, and we just look at the count. Okay, here is a mistake. It's called game. Update the game object. Cool. Cool. Yeah. Update game object. It is being done properly. No mistake with that. Is game ended? No. All of this is somewhere else now. There is problem here because of this and this and y over shit. Other left is not a thing anymore. Other left is opponent abandoned and white time left and black time left. We can just say 0. White time left. No, we can just give them the current time. Game game object dot white time left. Game object is not here. We do not get the game object. Are we ever getting the game object? If the user was in a game, if the user was in a game, get this off. Yeah, we can just say 0. It doesn't really matter what the time is because we are actually just ending the game. Black time left also 0. Cool. And wait, should why is there indentation here and not here? Get the game. Why is this stuff like out of indentation? Shit, this does not make sense. Open, cool. Then for message handling, okay, this is indented towards right, and this is not indented towards right. And close is completely not indented. Shit that. Okay, okay. Here is the inflection point. Indent towards right. Cool. Ooh, okay. Update the game object. Create a response. Create. Okay, and yes, there has to be a communication between create response and check for end. I think first we should check for end and return something which could be used by create a response, and then create response will give us a good response. Makes sense? Yeah, because mostly I've seen it only happen last 3 to 4 moves only. I have never seen like one first. Yes, but that is the ideal rule. Yeah, the game position could have. There can be any number of things, moves in the middle. Nope, I didn't stream yesterday, so no. Time logic added. Time logic is there. Time is updated, but I have to add logic to check whether the time what to check whether the game has ended based on time. Should I like I am facing difficulty in TypeScript right now, so writing in Rust would be even more difficult. Maybe later on. And one more decision is that front end will have its own clock which is running front end, and the back end will have its own clock which is running. So who to trust? Because when let's say a move is made on the front end, it is sent to the backend, and when a move is received on the backend, we have to validate the move. We have to, yes, well, validation takes quite a bit of time. I don't know, maybe it will take quite a bit of time. And updating the game object, creating a response which should be sent to this front end user and the other opponent, and the time when this message is received by the other user. So there is quite a long way between when a move is sent by one player and when it is received by the other player. So how who keeps tracks of time? So what will happen is the backend will will note what the time is when the move is received there, and it would be as if the front end made the move at that exact instant. And after validation, updation, and response creation, the back end will tell both the front end and like the player who made the move and the other player what should be the remaining times shown for both the players. So that makes sense, right? So if it is showing, let's say it took 1 second for the move to reach from one player to the other player, but from the front end to back end reaching the move, it only let's say took 0.5 seconds. So back end will note, let's say actual move was made at t, at time t, then backend received the move, player 1 made the move at time t, backend received the move at time t plus 0.5 seconds, and the other player p2 received the move at time t plus 1. So yes, there was a zero point 0.5 second difference in here. Backend, when after validation, updation, and everything, when it sends response to both of the players, it will say to show that the move was made at this time when the move was received on the backend. And even though the other player, the other front end is showing time t plus 1, it will be updated to t plus zero point 0.5. So, yep, every time a response is received by the front end, the times are updated for both the players. That is cool, makes sense. The two latency would keep adding up, the same game moves on. Perhaps you should add a minimum threshold up until which it is fine. If it is zero point 0.5, a kind tolerance level. Wait, yep, it will keep adding up. But we are, yes, using the backend time, we are always calibrating, you could say. And also, I came to know that chess.com has a default increment of 500 milliseconds on each move that is made. It was here somewhere. Chess.com has a default increment of 500 milliseconds. So, like exactly what you said, zero point 0.5 seconds. Uh, two-way latency. What is two-way latency? Getting from one front end to back end, and then from that back end to the front to the other front end, and also to this original back end. Two-way latency. Yep. The time would Yeah, there was will always be a default increment of 0.5 seconds. And since we are displaying time in milliseconds, so that would be 500 default increment. So okay, let's work on this now. Update the game object. Done. Let's just check if the updation is pretty cool. Update game object. At this point, we do know that the move is correct. We just have to make this move. Yeah, just they make this move by this color, and this is the increment. Yeah, this is the increment. Current time. Yes, current time is when the move was made. Here, let's call it move time. Go to the next move time, and update object. Get all the stuff. Update the time. First of all, we are updating the time, and then we update the move. For time update, we get the last time. That is the last time when any move was ever made, right? Moves time dot add -1 to get the last thing. Take this as numbers, and by default this is a list inside the game object, but by default there is one member. When a game starts, the default member is 0 there, so that is cool. Time since game start, how much time has passed since game start would be current time minus shit, instead of current time, I guess game move time sounds pretty cool. Move time, current time, and time taken for the current move would be move time when the move was made minus last time. That does not make sense because that does not shit, because move time is giving us milliseconds since the start of time, which is January 1971, but last time is not in that format. Last time is giving us how much time has passed when that last time is telling us when was the last move made after the game began, like we see time in code forces. 1 second. Shit. Cool. Charging. Cool. Yep. Shit. So yes, that is bad. Time since game start. Time since game start. That is good. Time since game start. uh yeah, I think we should go into game object and make it a bit more clear what we mean by these times. Time since Unix epoch, that is the format. And what does this mean? Time start means time, like it is in the name, time when game began, and the format is this. Time from the start of the game when the okay, and time moves. This would be moves times moves times I would mean time at which move I was played, taking start time as 0, taking start time as 0. Okay, and the format for this is milliseconds. And yeah, that is not a format, that is the unit, but it still makes sense. Special flags, not four. Yes, there are shit. Yes, there are still four. Four flags, long wrist hash makes sense. White time left, black time left. In milliseconds, this also in milliseconds. Time in milliseconds, which is like okay, written there. So in the description, they say that we have not hurt any animals, and also in the movie, they say they have not hurt any animals. Okay, twice informed. Okay, so now here, when we are updating time, last time we got the last time. Yes, game start. Yes, time taken for the current move. Why? Because we want to subtract something. Yes, time since game start. Yes, cool. And if the current color is white, then subtract and increment here. And also we will have a default increment. We will have a default increment, which I think here I can write constants dot not cppts default, or maybe this is a backend thing. I don't know. Default increment. There has to be default increment in milliseconds. Okay, and plus default increment, and here also default increment. Cool. That looks good. Yep. One roundup trip kind of thing. Yep. There will be latency. We will have default increment. Let's rewrite the logic in Scratch from MIT. Bro, I think ML projects are also interesting. I think I sent you a video earlier. I, okay, yes, we do communicate in videos. Shit, I was trying to make a joke about sending each other some video, but okay. Yes, ML projects are cool. Yes, that is true. Every project is cool. Like if you pay attention to anything, it just starts seeming cool. You can pay attention to ants, they start seeming cool. Everything can be cool. Update time, we are updating time correctly. Cool. Yes, this is also cool. Game object, update moves, update the number of moves, total moves which have been made till now. Push this onto the stack, onto the array of moves. Make move. This function takes in move and makes the move. Get details about the move. Source square, target square, source square, target square. Make the move. For making the move, first of all, of course, we will always make the target square equal to the source square. Yes, and the source square will be left empty. No matter what move it is, this will always happen. And the only special move is castle or pawn promotion. Shit, we have not done pawn promotion. Okay, shit. What are the special moves? Special moves. Castle. Shit. That is crazy. Special moves. Castling. Uh, on. Like I added logic for on person, but not for pawn promotion. Okay, pawn promotion seems to be the last special move. Pawn promotion. Are there any other special moves? Let's see. Let's talk. Hello, I am writing a chess game with back and front end, and I want to know what are the special moves. I have written logic for castling for on passant, and now I want to, and there is also pawn promotion. But apart from these three, are there other special moves in chess?
Ah, good question. You've got the big ones already: en passant, castling, and promotion. Beyond those, there aren't really any other special moves in standard chess. It's mostly just these three that break the normal rules. So once you've nailed those, you've basically covered all the trick moves in the rulebook.
Cool. And talking to ChatGPT just seems very good. So what do you want me to do now? What APIs do you want me to write? You can write APIs for getting users friends, like I told you. So first of all, write an API to get users friend. A user is asking for all of their friends, and for that you would also have to write do some update in the data object. There is an object which sends requests to the database, so you would have to update that also. Castle check is not a special move. At least the moving part is not special. The consequences are special, but the moving part is not special. Checkmate is also not special. Pawn promotion is one of the stalemate rule is also covered. Yes, so the thing is, there is a function. uh, yep, this one, generate possible moves. So this takes in the board. What is the board? For which player are we finding the moves, the color, and also the special flags, which have castling rights and everything. And shit, I made a mistake. Shit, not a mistake, but I haven't considered castling as as a move which can be done, and also on passant, I think. So this function goes through the chessboard and returns a list of all the possible moves. So if the current player does not have any possible moves, but she is in check, then that is checkmate. But if there are no possible moves and also the current player is not in check, then it is stalemate. And shit, I think I have not considered shit. Castling and en passant have I wait. So we are going through the board. We are finding the source square, and if the color of the source square is same as the color of the player for whom we are checking for moves, then we check for pawn. So for pawn, first of all we have to make sure that we do have a pawn. Then we do a straight movement, forward straight movement, and depending if the source row is the initial row, then the pawn will make two forward straight movements, not one. And if it is not in the initial row, then the pawn will only move forward once. And after creating the move, we first of all, okay, this is bad because we are directly pushing the move. This is bad. Yep, this is bad because we should be calling is move okay function like we are doing here. Yep, we should be calling this is legal move, takes in board, move string is just equal, yeah, and gets us the move string. Holy shit, yes, we should be calling this function here before blindly adding the move, because even though we might be able to make a move forward, we do not know the king might be in check and we cannot just move a random pawn. So don't do this, don't do this, that is bad, don't do this. Source to where we are going to target, not target the market, but this. Okay, we can make a little thing of our own here a little check. At least we can check that the place that we are trying to move to does not have is empty, is empty. Only then can a pawn move forward, so that we are not blindly just calling this heavy function, which is move okay, because it does a lot of checks. T column not found. Target column is the same as source column because this does not move in columns. Is move okay? Yep, and shit, we also have not. Yes, capture by pawn is there, but en passant is not there. We can add en passant later. Okay, en passant and castling. En passant and castling. Check for other pieces. Yep, so as a reminder, I would like to add en passant. T move rule, want no capture. Shit, okay. We can add these different things later. Yep, shit. Yes, and these will come later. I want to finish up the backend today. I mean, castle is a king move if you check all the king moves. So castle should be, but this will only check the king moves. Um, okay, so I have here an object like this, which stores moves for pieces, add moves for kings. So this map as a key has the king. And when I index into this map using the king as the key, k, then I get a moves array, and a depth array. Moves tells me what should be the change in the column and in the row to make this move, and how far along can I go. So, yep, these are the changes I can make to the current king position. And the depth is only once. For castling, depth should be 2. So if I were to say 2, so the good thing is before this move is added to the array, we are calling the is valid function, is like is move okay. Here we are calling is move okay function here. And if the move is not okay, then of course we will fail. But the way that we are defining a castle is the king moves by 2 squares. So that move will also be checked here. And if it is a valid castle, then we will add that move and to the possible moves and reject all the other moves. So shit, we are generating castle as a valid move. We just the only thing that we are not checking for is pawn, pawn, or for which, since our is move okay function is like, actually I like the is move okay function. It is pretty cool. Is move okay function. So I think we can just add one more move to the pawn to top right or top left, depending on whatever the thing is. Yep. And call is move okay, is move legal, and if it is, then and either this is like, simply a boolean. This heavy massive function, this just returns a boolean. So yes, that is pretty nice. Okay, en passant, we capture by pawn, we capture by pawn, we target column changes. Rows are horizontal. Yes. +1, -1. Yes. To the left or to the right. Cool. And this would also check for en passant by capture by pawn, and shit, this does check because from the pawn's perspective, if we like remove the context and just look at the pawn, in normal pawn capture and also in on plus one, the move is same. The pawn movement is same. It is just the pawn is at a different place than it would be in normal capture. Done at least with the minimal viable thing. One place for the king. For the king, only one place depth. Is the friend's logic? Yes. First of all, write the friend's logic, getting the friends, and then we will look at it. Look at the other things. You can check if the castle is still on, then check for condition of valid. Yep, that would also help. But I would like to keep this a bit cleaner. Like this is okay because checking for castle, I would have to see what the direction is and which flag I should check. Yep, there would be a bit more if conditions here. I think this is fine in that case. Yep, this would be fine. This is fine. This is fine. This is fine. Yep. And you can check. Also, there is one more thing. I think you forgot in castle part that after castling should not be wait. After castling, king should not be in check. Yes, king should not be in check when the king has castled, and also king should not pass through a check while castling. Those things are taken into consideration. So that is cool. Okay, yes, this function just checks all the possible moves and cool. Okay, we are updating the game object correctly. Yes, make move, and also I would like to show you this make move function. This function takes the board and takes the move, and it supposes that the move is correct. No problem with the move. Wait, shit, I but we did look at this. Yes, we did already look at this. And if castle, since we are supposing that the move is correct, then here we just check is king and is moving by 2 squares. So yep, if king's column changes by 2 columns, then yes, this is a castle. In which case, first we get the direction, either the king moved left or not left, depending on the direction. If direction is towards right, if the king moved towards right, we don't even have to do this actually. Yep. Since we have already moved the king, we just have to move the rook. Should there must also be a else part to this? Okay, that was very bad. And so what we are doing, the rook at the seventh column, because columns start at 0, becomes nn, nothing, null, and the okay shit. There should be we need the direction in like 1 divided by math dot abs 40 column, because whatever the current or original square for was for the king, the rook would be either 1 square right or 1 square left to that original square. So we need a direction to have a magnitude of 1 and not plus and minus 2. Yep. And in case of else, I mean, this is always the case, by the way. So we can have this out of the condition. The only thing that depends here is the 7. So if direction greater than 0, question mark, if direction is greater than 0, then the right rook, otherwise the left rook. Cool. We are making the move. Okay. Then update the Zobrist hash. Yes. Find the new hash, update the hash, and then update the flags. Okay. New flag, there is a function which takes in the game object, the board, the move, and the color, and gives us the new flag. These things are needed because this does not take in the game object, this takes the original flags and move and everything. And this function zobrist dot get next hash, this gives us the next zobrist hash, and hopefully this works correctly. I have not checked, so I don't know. And sets the current hash to be this new hash, and also game set updates the map of these hashes, increases the count by 1. If game object zobrist hash dot get slash new hash exists, then its original, then if it exists, then get its value, otherwise get 0 and add 1 to it. And then update the flags. Cool. Update game object. Cool. Update game object is updating correctly. If the game has ended or not. Okay, shit. Nope. Yes. So we want this function. We want a function which we will call to check if the game has ended or not. That function will give us something. That function will give us something. Uh, is game ended. We will call this function, and the handler, the socket handler, will call this function, and the response will be used by two functions. One is generate response, this function, and the other would be the socket handler itself, because it wants to decide. There are only actually two actions it can do, either continue or end. Continue or end, these are the only two actions. Either continue this game or end. If continue, then like nothing, but if end, then first we have to store the game on the backend and on the database and close the circuit. But if continue, then cool, then we are cool, no problem. His own client, wait, what? My own client, yes, my own client. Hmm. And shit, it would be cool, write that API, getting the friends API, and make a PR. I will accept your PR in GitHub. It would be cool. Check if the game has ended or not. Check if the game has ended or not. And another function for getting response. And this function which checks for game has, is this a backend specific function or will be used by the client also? I don't think this should be used by the client, because has the game ended or not, this is a server side thing. uh, this will be known to the client by the server, so this should be not be a common thing. But since everything related to game is in the commons folder, I will add this also in the commons folder. I think I already have this function. Get initial game object, nope. Update flags, nope. Is game ended? Yes. And the game can end. Check if the game is ended, takes the color of the player who made the last move. The winner makes the last move. Yes, always. And we have to return, yeah, we have to change what this function returns. We cannot just return yes, no, or draw, because we also need to know how, if there was a draw. uh, okay, this function needs to return two things. One is whether to continue the game or not to continue the game. Yep, if to continue the game, then we don't need anything else. We just need a basic response. But if not to continue the game, then we need more things. So its return type should be other than player has won, because that is very basic. Checkmate, game over responses. Nope, shut up. Export enum game state. Game state over, uh, yes, over boolean. uh, Shit, this is enum. No, shit. Interface. Game interface over is boolean. If true, then the game is over. Has ended does not make sense. What even is that? Okay, this one thing. And other thing. Other would be an object. Mm, Game end reason would be of type game end reason. Yes, game end reason would be of. So we already have a variable which defines continue or end, and we need a more detailed response from this, so that we do know more about this, like why did the game end, like what happened. And I think that is good enough. Why game ended reason, because by default we can make this not over. So we can here say that the return time is not has one, not has game over reasons. And should where did we create that response? Grep has over, has one. It was here. Game state. State of the game returned by is game ended. Is game ended. This thing returns game state. Okay. Default game state. Let response game state is default game state, which is player has one. Shit, has one. No, this is boolean. Uh, Wait, player has one is not even a thing in here. Game state, yes. Over false. That would be the default thing. And second is game ended reason state, yes. And the end response game state. Cool. Cool. Now check for checkmate. Checkmate stalemate, three full repetition, and time. For time, we need. Do we have the game object? Yes, game object completely is sent, so we have the complete power, white time left, and black time left. If these become like less than or equal to zero, then the game has ended because of time. If checkmate, if checkmate, it is game state dot over equals true. Game is over and rest game state game ended. Reason would be checkmate. Rest game state over is true and reason is stalemate. And in this game, in this condition, for repetition, threefold repetition, which is not here apparently. Threefold repetition. Okay. For time, if shit, the color of the current player, yes. If depending on color, if mm, color equals white, white, if color equals white, question mark, white time left is smaller than equal to zero. Otherwise, we look for the black time, and if either one of them is zero, then this, and you will say insufficient material will also be added at some point later on. Time over, time over, or maybe we can just have this in a single function. Generate response would be done by this function, and also has game ended. Nope, 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 nope. It will not be. Yes, it will be. It could be. It could be if we add the response object and also a boolean flag on or off to tell the caller whether the game has ended or not. That would be cool. Why on? It does. Like 10 hours is what, 50 hour? Huh? I think I really dislike the idea of spending 50 hours on tutorials. It's like hard and boring. Yes, that is why I like reading books. Reading books seems better because reading books is more difficult than watching a video. Watching a video, you can just like ease in, and you can even forget that you are watching a video. But while reading a book, you have to be engaged because you are actually reading something. So your brain is working a bit more. Insufficient check is not hard. It is just king and king or bishop by the king and or knight or bishop. Yep. Wait. Yes. Okay. So if we have is king and bishop, king and bishop is a draw. King and bishop is a draw. But king and bishop and knight. What is that? King and theoretical draw with perfect play. Wait. So king and king versus bishop. King and bishop versus king and knight. Nope, that is not my question. Let's say king versus bishop versus king. King versus bishop and king and knight. One side has three things. King plus bishop versus king and knight. No, that was not the question. King versus is not a draw, but it is forced win with. Okay, shit, it is forced win with perfect play. Okay. Okay. You can even hard code it. NVM node version manager. What? It is in the disk. What is in the what? Yeah. I'm gonna start working on. Yep. Let's go. Close gates. King, knight, and bishop is not a draw. Maybe. Yep. Two knights. Can we draw with two knights? I don't know. Yes, we can draw with two knights. That is. Wait, shit. I don't think so. Yeah, we can draw. Yes, yes means yes. We can draw. Yes, uh, we can draw with two knights. Insufficient material. What is the rule? Yep. Insufficient. Two knights is a draw because Samarana was playing with Andrea Botes and he made two knights for a joke, but that was draw. So he draw, even though he was going to win if he made a king, if he made a queen by promoting his pawn, but he wanted to be funny. Uh, he made a knight and he lost. So you are playing a game of chess and are getting near the end. There are only a few possible pieces left, and one more is captured. But then the game ends in a draw, and you get the message insufficient material. Insufficient mating material. Shit, that is what she said. Insufficient mating material. What does this mean? The insufficient material, mating material rule says that game is immediately declared draw if there is no way to end the game in checkmate. Yep. The most common way it happens is when the game is just down to two kings. There is no possible way to checkmate, even if your opponent blunders. So the game is declared a draw. A lone king, a king and bishop, a king and a knight. If both sides uh, have any one of these, there are no pawns on the board. If both sides either have one could have a king and okay any combination permutation combination of these with no pawns on the board. Okay, so these are the only conditions. A lone king, both of them are lone, a king and bishop, and a king and knight. But a king and king. Why are you building a thing already built in way better condition? Because I do not know how to build that thing. Right? That is like when you solve 2 plus 2 equal to 4, that has been solved by other people better than you. Why are you solving calculus? Why are you giving JEE? Why do you solve maths questions? They have been solved by other people. Like you can just look up the answer at the back. So yeah, for learning purposes. And yes, this is getting bigger than anything I have done before. Okay, I will add these insufficient material later on. Rage, but yes, so I'm angry. Like I'm going to punch the screen now. Check for time. Yes. Yeah, what was this? Yes, this is the is game ended function. Okay, delete has one and no other errors. Wait, why? Shade. Okay, look at this. These few things here at the top are green. Why is this green instead of blue? There is a reason. If you go to my remaps, there is a remap. This PP, when I was like learning how this thing works, I created a remap which reads all the lines in the current file and then prints them line and goes finds a highlight for a string and highlights these characters here at the top in the same color as a string is highlighted in the first 10 characters. I can say this 20. let's make this 10, source this file, and if I press space pp, then these first 10 characters will become green. Space pp. First we got the printed, the whole file got printed, quit, and these are now green. So neovim is cool. Neovim is cool. If I make this from 10 to 20, the next 10 more characters will turn green. So, but before that, we have to source this file so that 20 is the new update value there. Space cpp, and yep, 10 more characters are 20. So that is pretty cool. Wait, did you ever qualify for I didn't give regionals ICPC. He was asking if you can checkmate with bishop and king, and if you can do it, then you will be assured to be 2008. He was asking if you can checkmate with bishop and knight. Yes, and if you can do it, then you will be assured to 2000 plus. Magnus Carlsen getting out water from rock, I think, is what people say about him. Okay, back to this checking time. Okay, that is good. That is good. Repetition, stalemate, checkmate. Insufficient material. Yes, shit, yes. Okay, we have to add it now. We have to add it now. Insufficient material. How do we check for insufficient material? Just count the pieces. Game over reason. We have to. Insufficient material is already here, so cool. Yes, we can just do it right now. Don't have to procrastinate. Uh, check for insufficient material. Const is insufficient material and return false at the end. But here we need a function which will both the both the sides always do have a king, so that is good. We can write a super specific function which will give true, a function which will give true if there is at max one king, one knight for a certain color, and one bishop, and false for all other conditions. Either there is no other piece other than the king for a specific color, there could be a knight, or there could be a bishop. In these three conditions, that function will return true. Otherwise, it will return false. We could have a super specific function like this, or a general function, but this is fine. Returns true if the current port position has appeared 5 times. That does not even make sense. Returns true if board has max uh max bishop or knight for the given color. King not included because king is always there. Constant is insufficient for color. This takes in the board of directors and colors. Okay, and this will go through. Return false is written. Let response equals initially false, and then it is return response for it I equals 0, I smaller than row size I plus plus for int j. Shit, there is no int reflex action. j equals 0, j is smaller than column size j plus plus, and if shit we have to yes const row would be board I as row bo ar d board, get the row, get the piece, and piece color match if the color of the current piece is the same as the color, then if piece, okay, that is like cool, this is being done by this, that is one thing we could do. Or if first of all we are getting the color has to be same, we do not care about the other pieces, right? Then pure piece would be get pure pieces map, get the pure piece, and if that is a bishop or a knight, shit, what are we even assuming beforehand? What are we assuming here beforehand? King. Okay, so we will by default assume that there is just a single bishop or a single, okay, yes, okay, okay. Count equals 0. Yeah. So when we see a piece of the same color, when we get the piece and if here we'll do count plus plus, if the piece is a bishop, a knight, or if it is a bishop, a knight, or a king, then we do count plus plus and return true, return count smaller than equal to t. Cool, that does work. Does work. Count the increase count only for bishop, knight, or king. And if the count is like 2, 1, or 2, then we are okay. And count is also increased for king. Cool. Now, if is insufficient material for both the colors, whiteboard, blackboard, it does not make sense. Return true, and this function will take in the board, okay, and cool, cool. If both the sides have insufficient material, then cool, and cool. Shit, message not showing, okay. And king and bishop is not a draw because they, that's what Magnus was asking. Guess the elo to check if they are master level. Shit, king and bishop. Wait, you're saying if a side has king and bishop, that is not a draw. One K. King versus knight. King versus king is also draw. Draw. Do you have piece count as well? Like what? Maybe that will be helpful in checking. Or do you? Yes, we will have to traverse the whole board. There are just 64 pieces, so that is fine. 64 pieces. 64 pieces is fine. Knight. Wait, here it is. Knight and bishop is not. Okay, yes, knight and bishop is not a draw. We are not considering. Either both the sides have just kings, or one could have a knight or knight bishop. Yep, these are the only things. Both the sides will have their king for sure, and they could have one extra piece each along with knight, a bishop, or a knight, along with the king, a bishop, or a knight, and same for the other piece, other color too. Either a bishop or a knight, but not both at the same time, or two knights also would be bad. Is insufficient material. Check for insufficient material, and if AI and game over reason would be insufficient material. Cool, cool. I think that is good enough. Check for checkmate. Check for stalemate. Is checkmate. Is shit. This is bad. This is bad because we are doing the same thing. This shit. This is not very efficient because this function is a heavy function. Generate possible moves. This is like actually pretty heavy, more heavy than validate move is move okay function, because this calls the is move okay function multiple times. So we should be calling this only once. Possible moves, generate possible moves. Now for checkmate, shit. For checkmate, is checkmate is king under check. Yes, we can call this function also. Yes, cool. Now checkmate would be if possible moves dot length equals 0. If there are no possible moves, okay, if there are no possible moves, and if is king under check, then that is checkmate. But if there are no possible moves, but the king is not under check, then that is stalemate. This uh, this cool. Opponent color. Okay, so we really do not need opponent colors somehow. And move repetition is being checked, and time and insufficient material. Those seem to be it here. Get response. We are not going to call this function. We will call const game state would be game is game ended. Is game ended. What does this need? This needs the game object and the color. Game object and color. It will call get response post move function with the game state. We will update game state. Cool. We'll send the responses, both the opponent and the current one. We will log some stuff, print the board, and here, yep, then decide whether to store, whether to stop or not. End game or not, depending on if game state dot over. If over, then something else. Yeah, else we do not do anything. If game over, then we do something, otherwise we don't. So now game state is what is being returned by this, so we have to change this signature. Game state of type game state. We don't have to call this. Yep, this is a diff. Okay, game object is not being sent. Okay, we also need the game object. My bad. Okay, for the time and stuff. And type of this is game object. Game object move. Cannot find move. Move is should also be here. Hmm. Which is going to be a string. Okay, and seems to be okay. Has player one. Yeah, we will see. Okay, so we have a default response which we will send. And we have the game state. Default response which we will change depending on the game state and it generate new response. Okay, if the game has not ended, then this is the response. This is the valid response. Move, we send the move. We say that the player has not won. No one has won. There is no error. The game is not over. Not over. Play away. Playing or we can send in the message that you will lose. Yes, that is very optimistic. And the time left so that the front end and the back end they can up and the front end both the front ends can update their stuff. Now, if the game is over, then game over. Okay, shade. Current player. Why would current player win? Why would current player win? Current player would win because it is always the. It is not always shit. It is not always the winner who wins. It is not always the one who made the last move who wins. Makes sense. Makes sense. Makes sense. So yes, this winner thing and message thing would depend. No, winner we don't know. Message also we don't know who won. So okay, over true. Yes, both will know that the game has is over. Game state. Time left would be same. Time left would actually be 0. No, whatever the time lap is, time left is that it would be it. Yes. Or I would like to make a change to update not flags but update game object update time here when we do minus here. I do not want this. Game object dot white time left minus this. I want this to be math dot max of 0 or this thing that we have here, and instead of white here substitute white with black. Cool. So this would never be negative, so that is a cool thing. Cool. If game is over, right? If game is over, then change these things. You will lose. And now, depending on the reason, switch would be nice. Switch game state dot end reason for checkmate. No, switch would not be nice. How switch would actually not be nice, I think. do some should and add to it. Okay, wait, what? I feel this is very way. I think understanding the underlying logic for everything deeply is a really, really bad. Nope, it is not. It depends on the speed. If it is like putting you in a bad state mentally because of a lot of pressure, then it is a bad idea. But if you actually want to do it and you are in high spirits because of it, then it is cool. I think if the piece on the boards are knight and king, and it should be a draw. Knight and yes, it will be a draw. Insufficient material. You know what? Write a function for every move if there is just the king remaining on the board. Every move on the board and no other pieces. Since kings are always on the board, don't have to include them, but it is easier this or yeah, it is preference, just preference, but in a check position, it doesn't matter. I don't get the context here. If a single knight is on the board and it is a legal position, it is no draw. It is no draw. It is a draw. Yes, it will be a draw if there is just a knight. Yep, it will be a draw, and it is being checked. So, uh, yep, if game state dot game and reason in, what are these? Wait, let me go to game over reasons, copy all the reasons, paste, not here, maybe here. If game ended, game over reason, when will the current player win? The current player will win in checkmate, in time over, in other resigned, which we will add later on, other resigned and other abandoned, we will add later on. But okay, checkmate, not a stalemate. Checkmate, time over, comma, other resigned or other abandoned. In this case, current player wins. Current player response dot winner equals true, and message is not true. Yes, you won. And we can add like bitch or something, like you won bitch or something like that. You will lose. No, you did lose. And else, like current player never loses, right? That is one thing. The player who just made a move, either he like stalemates himself, but he never loses. He like, how can a player make a move that will make him lose? That does not make sense. Or there could be very edge cases in which in otherwise it is draw. Edge cases in which a player made a move, but by the time that it got to the back end and everything happened, his time was up or her time was up, whatever. Winner falls. Cool. So we do have a response. Much better. Much better. Where is the checklist? Create response and check for end. Okay. So we did update game object, create a response. We do have a response, and check for end. And do stuff there. Here, if game has ended, now we have to save the game. Game over. Nope, all of this logic will be taken care of here when our WebSocket ends. Mm. the Game list, player color. These are the two things. Game list, which has a string, and game object and player color. Okay, player color, which doesn't even make sense. Like, what is this player color? Player color, player color. Okay, cool. This thing, static variables defined beforehand. Yes, makes sense. Game queue. This is the queue. Nothing is in the queue if a game is going on. User queue. Nothing. User opponent. This is something that we will have to change. And user WebSocket ID to get someone's WebSocket ID depending on their ID to get a WebSocket. Cool. Which means we will have to map user ID with their color. Game, like, should this go to game? What is data? Data is the, like, yes, data, main data. Database dot yes, this is not a database function. Cool, makes sense, makes sense. This is a game thing. Okay, yes, this is a game. But this is a in-memory game, I think so. No, this is fine. This is fine. This is fine. User opponent, yes. I think this user opponent should go to the other game thing, right? Yeah. Uh, Type user opponent. Hmm. What even is this? Type user opponent is string to string. Okay, very cool. Hmm. Hmm. But yeah, okay. Uh, Is user playing? Mm, Is user playing? This should be a game thing. Yes, this should be a game thing. Get user opponent. Yep, all of this should be a game thing. And yep, two refactoring. Okay, now we need to. Yes, I was looking here at what are the things which are here. So we need, when a game ends, we need to remove the game from the game list of games. We need to remove player from their color and also from opponent. Okay, makes sense. Game.ts remove this helper game start. Oh, yes, cool. When the game is over, when this thing closes, we see if the user is in the user queue, then remove them from the queue and console.log that the user removed closed their connection from the queue. Otherwise, if the user is playing here, which will be true here, if the user is playing, we get the opponent ID, get user opponent ID. If the opponent ID does exist, which it should exist, okay, there are multiple reasons that a socket could be closing. There are multiple reasons a socket could be closing. One reason would be shit. The only time when we do have to tell the opponent or return something to some WebSocket here is when the other user closes their with Gujarati. Is shit, yes. Someone can checkmate themselves, like Hikaru and with Gujarati, they were experimenting with chess. And then okay, the only time that that we have to return something from this when a socket closes is when socket closes unexpectedly, when it was not us who closed a socket, but the socket closed because the other person left. Only then do we have to tell the other player that you have won, and cool, tell them that they have won, get the opponent ID. The opponent ID would not exist otherwise because we would have removed the opponent ID from the database, from the memory. Opponent socket, get the socket. After getting the ID, if opponent socket, it will be there. Opponent socket will be there. Mm, yes, that is a valid question. We will do this as Elysia WS. If other player left, yes, shit, that is like exactly yes. Get the opponent socket, tell them that they have won here. Black time left, this does not actually matter. Even the other player left, abandon over true, winner true, false, yes, error, false, nope, no error. Yes, and opponent socket, tell the other player and get the color. Why do we need color? Shit, that does not make sense. Okay, we needed color because we wanted to print something here, but okay. Remove, yes, both the clean up. We could write a function which ends game. Like we have a function which initializes the game, we will add a function which ends the game. So this is the game class. Here we will add a function end game. And game, this takes in a white user ID, which will be a string, black user ID, which will be a string. And the things that we have to clean up are these: remove the game from the game list, easy enough. Player color, remove, yes, this would be easy enough also because the key here is the function which removes uh, player ID to player color. It takes in the user ID, which we do have, and opponent user. Set game object, nope. Get player ID, player color, get user opponent. Is user playing? Set user opponent, remove user opponent. This takes in user ID 1 and user ID 2. If not this, if none of the players are playing, then do this. Okay, cool. End game. No, directly deleting is not very cool, I think. Is there a delete game object? There must be a delete game object function here. Set game object, yes, set game object is here. Set game, set game object, get game object. Okay, but delete game object is not here somehow. Remove user object, yes, shit. Okay, removes a game object. Okay, cool. Removes a game object. Static. Remove game object takes in white user ID type string, black user ID type string, and there would be no validation here. Just get the key and delete. Just normal delete here. This dot remove game object with white user ID, black user ID player delete. We don't need the key here. Cool. And do we have to remove anything else? Yes. Player color, we are removing them from the color. User opponent is something else. Remove user opponent, there was function. Remove game object, yes, there is remove game object is user play. Remove user object, yes, this is what we call next. Next is biversal, this is not what we call next. Remove user opponent. Okay. So there were three things which we were storing about a game, and we have removed all of them. So cool. Okay, it feels like we are like almost there. Okay, this on socket connection, this just, yeah. If the players were playing, then it does some stuff. Wait, shade, okay. There are some other stuff which must be done here in the memory part. And there are these three things. Game queue, already empty, we don't need this. User queue, nope. The current game which is running is not in the user queue, but this thing is something that we have to take into account. User ID WebSocket. From this, we have to remove user ID WebSocket. Yes, we do have to remove this. So in the game, we can user ID WebSocket. Nope, function is not here. We have to call data dot remove user ID socket. Give the white user ID along with black user ID. User ID socket remove opponent user. Okay, and we can call data dot remove game object and game. User ID, opponent user ID, these are the two things. White, we don't know who is white and we don't know who is black, but do we need to know who is white and who is black? Yes, we do need to know, because this function wants to know specifically who is white and who is black. So here we have to know which person is who, for which we need to know the color. Wait, shit, there was a thing storing color, yes, which we do still have. Okay, cool. Color, get player color. This takes in User ID. User ID is the ID of the current player. Yep. Okay. If color equals color type dot white. No. Data endgame. Color type dot black does not even make sense. Current user ID would be white and opponent would be black. Otherwise, the opposite is true. Opponent is white and the current user is black. And we also close the opponent's socket after sending them the victory message. Okay, cool. That is cool. That is cool. Now we have to store stuff on the backend, on the database if something happened. Game over. Yes. After confirming that the game is over, we check other stuff. Yes, npm is that. So when is a tool to install all reusable code in your project? How do you find and decide what packages to install and what is npm and bun do the same thing? npm okay, npm installs packages like libraries because npm package manager. Bun also installs packages. It can act as npm, but bun also runs your javascript code. Npm does not run your javascript code. Bun runs your javascript code, which in case of npm is done by node. So node along with npm along with nvm, node version manager. These three, I don't know if there are other, but these three things come together as a package. This for node for running your javascript, npm for installing packages in your project, nvm for installing the newer version of node version manager. Makes sense. And bun is like single-handed. Bun runs your javascript. Bun can download packages and wait, how do you update bun? I think you update bun with your normal package manager. Okay. Now we have to just store on the backend, for which we also have to we have to update what we are storing on the backend. We have to update schema. Our current schema would not cut it. No. Data dot endgame white user id black user id. Cool. That will remove and close everything. Now store game in the database, remove the game from active games, store the game, and then close web sockets, for which we just do ws.close and opponent socket also close. So just one function. All we have to do is write just one function and backend is complete. Await. Why do we await? We can just, we don't have to await. No, we don't have to await. Okay, now what would we like to store on the backend? We are storing nothing on the backend. Set dot SQL. Yeah. In shade. Yes. Okay. There was something that we decided. Shit. There was something that we decided. and it was shit. It was that instead of having blitz wrap three tables here, one for rapid, one for bullet, one for blitz, we will have a single table which will, yeah, which will have everything. But no, this is shit. We also have to calculate rating and everything, ratings and everything. Okay. Okay, yes, shit. Ratings, I will add ratings in a bit. Let's first like complete end the game and store it on the backend. Ratings will be added duly. And we have a separation here between rapid bullets and blitz, and we do not have a single table here because we want to keep these games separate. Why? Because we want to keep their ratings separate. Yes, yes. We want to keep the ratings separate. Chess.com, on chess.com we have like three ratings. Yep, one is 3 into 1. I am not sure about NVM, node version manager, but yeah, one is 3 into 1. And npm package manager, it is used to install. Yeah, here we see three, well, four, but we don't have that. We will not have daily. We have bullet, rapid, and blitz. We want to keep these ratings separate. And shit, 820, Kakashi, what is your rating? You are like 1600. Do you want to play a match like right now? Do you want to play a match? I will send you a request. I think you are my friend. At least I think so. It is up to you. Yep, we will. You don't have. Of course, I am not playing a game right now actively and shit. Yep, we have to update stuff here. Game ID will store everything related to the game. White ID. Wait, these are shit. These are ratings. Games. Yes. Rapid, bullet, and blitz. Here substitute minutes with milliseconds and substitute seconds or space seconds with space milliseconds. Yo, okay. Okay. Moves makes sense. They will be stored as a text. Rapid games. Game ID, white player ID, winner ID, link, game link. Game link? No, we don't need game link shit. We don't need game link. Okay, we will have a game link. We will have a game link. Okay, cool. Game time, the total time, increment, time when did we store this game, right? Cool. When did we store this game and why the person won? Yep. So not this. Win reason would be int. I don't think we have to add anything else apart from that. Wait. Okay, what? Modular. Do you want to play a game? If you like want to play a game, you can send a link. I am like hungry to play one game, one chess game. You might not be able to beat me, like judging on your skill levels, but we will see how it goes. Okay, I think that is the only extra thing that we need to store here. Win reason. Rapid, bullet, and blitz. Win reason. Cool. We have a win reason. Yes, okay. Database.ts. We have to add a method to store. Yes. And these are the fields. Let's write a function to store a rapid game. A function to store a rapid game. Where while okay, we have quite a bit of functions here. Static async store rapid game gc store rapid game. And how did we used to do this? This function will not return anything. Await psql return type just query and inside give the variables. Okay. Shit. Wait. Paste. Okay. Users where what? Await. Okay. We will. This is the async. What is the problem? Uh, must be a promise. What must be a promise? Type of await operation. If that does not make sense. Now it is okay. We just do not have this. Yes, and this will take in the game object of time game object. Store. We have to now store this. How do we store? Add a new entry in SQL. How do we add a new entry to a table? I think insert into table name, values, this, and just values. That is enough. Specific columns we can add into specific columns like this. If we do this, then we can add into specific columns. Before values we can okay shit yes like this. Okay, insert into shit, what is the name of the table? rapid games. Then comes the columns. I We are skipping ID. ID will be auto generated. Moves is something that we do need here. White ID, black ID, winner ID. Game link would be empty for now. Win reason, why did this person win or lose? Why? Game time, how much time was the time for the game, like duration, and increment time, and then timestamp, which will also be auto generated. That is actually good enough. And then columns or column values, nothing. Okay, values, where the first thing is moves. So moves, shit. This will also take in winner ID separately, which will be a string. We need moves. We need const game object white time. Don't we have white ID on this game? Oh, shit. We must have white ID on this. We do not have white. We do In the game object we do not have white ID and black ID because that is the key which is being used to get to this. So we can have this separately. Okay, first we given the moves. Then the second thing is white user ID, then black user ID, then winner ID, then game link for now, let's say, is empty. And shit, that is kind of like messed up. Like what is even is what even is this? These things have comma in the middle, so this is empty. Empty string makes sense. Then game link win reason would be shit. This would also be given to us separately. Why do Okay, we have to tell what the type of this thing is. And win reason is of type number. No, win reason is of type win. Why is there no auto suggestion which is correct? Shit, okay. Where is win reason? Huh? Is user queue does not exist on type data. It's shade. So data memory, okay, everything is here. So database from module database. Okay, because it is in the process of being edited. Okay, that is the only reason. I thought, okay, shit, something messed up happened. Nope. In common interfaces, game. Win game over reason. This is what we have to import. Game start properties in database memory. No. Database here. Win reason. Why would you prefix this? Game over reason is the actual name. Okay. Expression expected. Game win reason. Win reason or over reason. Over reason. Game over reason. Game O capital over reason. Okay, we don't have to just try catch e console.log e and console.log couldn't save game on the couldn't save game on the database. Okay, game over reason and time game object dot game time win reason. Yes, we have this start time game time start time. Yes, cool. And then increment time game object dot time increment time does not exist. Object dot increment time increment game object dot start time wait time move time. Wait, increment time is part of the game object, so why do we not have it here? Shh. Increment time is not part of the game object. What is it a part of? Start game, how do we know the increment time? Update game object, we give that thing to the game objects, and how are we getting that? Okay, it is in the user. Okay, shit. Okay, so this will also be sent by the user, not by the user, by the caller function. Yeah, okay, cool. uh, Increment time, which is going to be a number. Game uh, moves times shade. We also have to have game time here, which will be a number. Cool. This is going cool. Okay, almost. Here, game game type which has been given to this function by the caller, and increment time, and after increment time, shit, done. That is it. That is it. That is it. That is it. Yes, shit. Finally. Data dot store. The file has been changed since reading it. Do we? No. uh Exit. Go here. Store game does not. I did not mess up. Hopefully I did not mess up. Yes, the function is still here, intact. Store rapid game. We need a similar function for blitz. And shit. Or we can just have a single function which will decide store game. Yep. Game type, which is going to be of type game type. This would be a common thing. Interface enums. Shit, there have been like hundreds. Game types, export, enum, game types, rapid, blitz, and bullet. Database here. This will get game types and const table name. Depend. There are three possibilities actually. Equals. Wait, can we have an if? Default would be, let's say, rapid games, and if game type equals game types dot let's, then we change this table name would become let's games, else if game type is bullet, then bullet games. Cool. And here table name with a bit of space. Cool. So we have a database function, a function which will talk to the database. We need a function that will store and end the game. Okay, shit. This end game function should also store the game, which does make sense. But this end game function does not have enough stuff. This end game function should also store the game. Now we will create a static different function. Store game. This will, by the way, this already exists. A function by this exact name here. store game. This will store to the database, and this is a higher level abstract function on top of that one. This one requires all these things, which is a lot. This one will require the same things. Game types and import game over reasons and import game types. Okay, game object, and depending on shit, game object will be given to this. Winner loser ID will also be given to this function. White user ID, black user ID, game over reason will also be given to this. Increment time will also be provided. Game type is something that we will calculate here. So if game, yeah, let game type equals rapid. Let's say by default it is rapid. If or by default it is bullet. I think bullet is the shortest. Bullet. Now if game time greater than equal to 2 minutes, which would be 2 seconds. 2 minutes, 2 minutes. Yes, game time if it is greater than 2 minutes, greater than or equal to 2 minutes, that would be 60 exactly. This it would become a blitz game. But else if game time is 10 minutes, I think rapid, we can put the rapid ceiling at 7 minutes. Which shit, that does not make sense. 1000 milliseconds. 7 into this. If time greater than if time greater than equal to 2 hours. Shit, that, yes, that is kind of messed up. Should not be 2 hours. Greater than equal to 2 minutes. Uh, then blitz. Supposing that bullets is the shortest. If time greater than equal to 7 minutes, then rapid. And then we go on to store the game. Removes all the in-memory data about the game. Stores the game on the back end. Stores the game on the back end, and we just have to call this store game function. API's game is start from here. Store game, yes, we have to pass in a few more arguments. Let's copy this. Okay, a store game requires game object, then winner ID. Game state dot winner. Game state does not have winner ID. That is not right. What if it is a draw? If it is a draw, then game ID does not matter. Winner ID. How do you know the winner ID? If game Object is game ended, game state. We can look at the response. We can look at the response. Yep. If current player one, which would be if current player dot winner, if the current player one, then the winner ID is current player. Shit, or it is always that the current player wins. So yes, we will just give the current player ID, user ID, because either the current player won, which is like cool, exactly what you want, or there was a draw, in which case it does not matter who has what we give in the winner ID. Okay, store game, and then winner ID, white user ID, which you already exactly have, black user ID, game state, nope, dot game and reason, okay, and increment time left does not make sense. Game over reason, yes, increment time, yes, we have given game time is just we don't shit we don't have game time. Move time, set time. Okay, shit, we are not taking game time. Or we can say is as time. Does this work? This does not work. So we will have this as time. Time does work. Okay. And then close the WebSocket. Okay, shit. Okay. If the game is over, then print game is over. End game, store, remove everything from the memory about the game, store everything on the database, and close the WebSockets. One run back. No error. Postman. Two postman. That is cool. Cool. Now the game should actually run. Uh, if this runs, that would be very cool. This desktop postman. One on one side, other on the other side. Okay. It is just a piece of code that sends data to the part of your code in order to perform its job. You know what? It is just a piece of code that sends data to a part of your code in order to perform its job. Are you like giving the definition of a function or function? Yes. What are you referring to? Okay. This should run, connection made, connection made. Okay. Start, start. Right. We can, by the way, retrace a legit good game in chess. Let's do scholars made. Scholars made. Chess.com. We'll do scholars made. Let's see. I should have brought a MacBook Pro. So much regret. Why do you regret? It is like okay, you can run Linux on your machine. That is good. Okay. There was an analysis board. Yeah. E4. So I think this is the nine. This is the player E2 E. Shit, pawn promotion. Okay, we do have to make some changes now. But okay, that will come. User 42 wanted to play a move and user 42 was white. Move was validated. But why did I get error? Why? Why was there error? Why was there error? After move was validated. Move was validated. Print update game object. Print board after. Do not print board here. Yes, just print the board here. Check if the game ran. Shit, why? Shit. Why did I get this thing? This like empty thing. One run back. Okay. Connect. Connect. Send this move again. E2, E4, and error somehow. Move was validated. And then we are getting error apparently in this update game object function. Console.log. Time was updated. Move made. Shit, this might be Zobrist flag thing. Uh, hash updated. Flag updated. Connect. Connect. Send the move. Move validated. Time updated. Move made. We got some error after move made. Hash updated. Okay. Let's go even deeper. This is binary search, by the way, like in this. Define API in one sentence. Communication between two programs. Just a piece of code that sends data to a part of your code in order to yeah, communication between two sentence two yeah communication between two programs. They could be on the same computer or on different computer. Just communication. Got new flag. Got new hash. And for the update, I don't think we will face some error. Let's see exactly where is the error. Z error. Got a new flag. Okay, we were getting a new flag. So error is exactly in this generate next hash. Shit. It might be shit. Okay, we are doing the init away. Yes, this is not away thing. Zobrist. So this function is giving error. This function is giving error. Okay. Console.log got data updated. Yeah. Shit. Not flags. Updated pieces. Flag. Get chance flag. updated chance console.log updated cache link. Got data. Okay, after getting data, we are facing error in this get piece this target this. Okay, so this function is giving us error which just returns this thing as big int. Hmm. Hmm. Const res this dot piece square hash dot get piece square. Console.log res and console.log hello. Start, restart, connect, connect, send the move. Hello, and before hello, undefined. So this is giving undefined piece square hash. We do not have a hash for this piece. Okay. If we do console.log shit console.log zobrist hash piece number 5 square number 3 4 piece number 5 square number 3 4 piece square hashes which we are filling in this. Shit, this should be working, this should be working, this should be working. Console.log this dot piece square hashes. We print this whole thing. Yes, okay. Connect, connect. Send. It does not have stuff. Shit, why is the stuff negative? Begin, we are storing everything as begin. Okay, shit, okay, shit. Okay, the problem is this. Shit. Okay, this is the terminal. Shit, the problem is this. Node. Shit, this was stupid. If I say let A equals an array, cool. B equals A, cool. And if we do console dot, if we do A equals B, that is true. But if I do empty array equals empty array, that is false. This is the problem. We are using a key to store things. We are using some object as key to get the things that we stored earlier. But since JavaScript compares by reference these two things, even though their data is exactly same, they are not equal to each other. Okay, so we have to stringify the thing. Yes, we can stringify. Here we can say string, and when we are doing this, we can. But JSON dot yes, like calling stringify. We are not calling stringify quite a lot. We are just calling stringify here. Or instead of stringify, we could have our own little format. This would be a string. Yes, we will have our own little function. convert piece and square to a string. And what is the thing that ChatGPT or the AI suggested is to have a function piece square to string. Cool. Takes in the piece square, converts it into a string where first we have the piece, then hyphen, then 0 and 0. Okay. Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. There should also be a reverse. No, we don't need a reverse. We don't need a reverse. So instead of giving it piece square here directly, you will give yes. That is somehow wrong. Shit. C square square. Okay, p square. This dot piece square. This dot piece square. Yeah, I cool. One run back. Run this. Run the backend. Connect. Connect and send. Okay, Los Gates. Okay, we are able to play a game now. We are actually able to play a game. Okay, what's that website which you use to draw stuff? Excalidraw. Excalidraw. To be honest, it is better to ask that Stockfish server. They are kind of better at this stuff. I mean, yes, like yeah, that is fine. Advice on how to write functions and stuff. Like what should be inside the functions. Yep, yep. Like yes, they do know stuff. Yeah, and I will ask when I like really cannot solve anything, and you define the rules of communication. And okay, and so an API is just a two-way for yes, and we define the rules of communication. Yep. Shade because you have to write API. That is why you're looking up API. Makes sense. Okay, why is the censoring my message? I don't know. Yeah, it is like censoring your messages some due to some reason. Next move, E7 to E5. E7, E5. Yes. Okay. We are going legit going to scholars meet this thing. Wait, shit, what is the shortest checkmate? Short, yes, shade, yes, G. Wait, what was the G slat checkmate? G slat checkmate. What was the shit G slat checkmate? I think G slat was white, and there was a check from here. This pawn moved by one, this moved by two, and there was a piece which is queen. Okay, shit. Okay, let's restart the game. Let's if I disconnect, connection disconnected, but we got winner, winner, true, and everything. Yes, the other user has one. Why don't we have any other messages? Why do not we have any other messages? Mm. Okay, yes, we have to make changes on the database because we changed the schema. We have to update the database schema. Yes, makes sense. Okay, let's start a new game. Start, connect. Yes, they are playing. So now the moves should be this, then this, then this, and checkmate. This one is f2, f3, f2, f3. Yes, e, yes, e7, e5. Cool. G2, G5. Shit. That apparently is not a right move. Why? G2. Yes, that is not a right move. G2 to G4 is a right move. Yes, cool. G2 to G4 and then checkmate. Uh, Queen D8 to H4. D8 H4. Okay, moment of truth. If this is registered as checkmate, then I'll be happy. If F4 F5 F4 E5. What is F4? F4 E5. What is this? Let's see. Uh, Only the move was sent, but Black Queen is huh, shit. You must kill server. Team set. Set. Attach. Cool. We just have to like solve this to 364. I think. Yes, and this one 24 uh 800 860 plus 160 700 uh 820 plus 12 832 maybe 1032. Shit, the game ended, right? Yes, the game. Yes, the game ended. Okay. What was the shortest thing you were saying? Shortest committee. F4E5. What is F4E5? F4 E5. Where is the checkmate? Send the whole thing. F4 E5 F3 E5 F3. Hmm. Okay. And what sort of rules exist in API? Like, do you define the data that one system receives? Yes, we define what must be the data sent and receive. Yes, we define that. What must be the command? Yes, we define that. We define everything. Like like when we are defining a function, we define what will be the input, what will be the name of the function, what will be the output of the function. In the same way, we define an API. Okay, so if I send message and it doesn't make sense, it means the previous message was censored and removed by YouTube or just some random function. Yes, API is similar to a function, and I think, wait, is it fair to call an API a remote call procedure?
Absolutely. And in fact, that's a pretty classical analogy. A remote procedure call, or RPC, is essentially a function call that happens across a network, just like an API call. The difference is that an RPC usually tries to look like a local function call, hiding the network complexity. An API, on the other hand, is just an interface that you use to interact with a remote service. So they're cousins, but not identical twins.
Yep, that's like pretty cool, right? That is pretty cool. You can talk to ChatGPT. It is pretty cool. Okay, okay. In the backend, okay. Shit, this didn't register. E2 to E4. Shit, no. In yeah, it is wrong. E2 to E4 is wrong. Connect. Move is this. If F2 to F3. to f3 or 5, f3 or 4 does not matter. f2 to f3. Okay, received. And this one moves e pawn e7 to e5. Then fg2 to g4. And then the mate king queen is at the d file, I think. And h, yeah, I will have to see, look at the board. Yes, dh to h, d8 to h4. Okay, move is received on the other side, and here we do see that the black king is, queen is here. So why is this not a checkmate? Why is this not a checkmate? That does not make sense. Zobrist hash should probably remove all these. Console.log. There were a lot of console. Wait, shit. There were a lot of console.logs that we added in this. Nothing else. Okay, cool. In the backend, APIs, game start API. View console.log. Okay, why do we not see this as game ended? Does not make sense. Remote procedure call. Okay, camera is not working. Nur eine Minute. And also this is like almost time for, like, yes, camera was, yes, it is working now. Cool. My YouTube censoring my message is so annoying. Okay, maybe I can create another, shit, I think I can actually create something which would take messages and show me here. But but I did create something like this though, but it was very bad because it was not secure and my laptop got hacked. That was bad. Wait, this is the move procedure. Okay, f3 and e5 and f3 e5 g4, and this, yes, this is what I did. And censoring the chess moves I am sending. Shit. Okay. Remote procedure call is a function that works across, not across different parts, but the function is not available right now at the place where your program is running. You are calling that function somewhere else, like shit, like you could argue maybe in a way that when I write something here, a remote call procedure happens. The function does not run on my browser. It runs on OpenAI's browser, OpenAI's machine, and I get the response here. You could see that in a way it is also a remote call procedure. And okay, yep, and this would be the end for today, even though, like, I don't know, somehow this is not detecting that this thing is right now. Checkmate, bro, lost, but game is still going on. I don't know why that is. I will have to check that. But yep, I'll do that after the stream today itself, 3:15, and that would be it. So thank you for being here. That would be it for today's stream, and bye.